Okay, why don't you get us kicked off then, because we've got a lot to cover tonight.
Happy to do so. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 speeches from either the traditional or the Pathways programs, or you must have substantive, relevant presentation experience that you demonstrate in a 3 to 5 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings, which you will hear one this evening or today, this afternoon, wherever you are. All requests for membership are subject to board approval. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click on your panel and select Rename to do so. We do have members and oftentimes guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered insensitive or otherwise offensive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your video and audio contributions may be used for our club marketing purposes. Please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Today's theme is resiliency. Please welcome back our club president, distinguished Toastmaster, Lois Margolin.
Isn't he wonderful? I absolutely love that speech. It took us forever to get it just perfect, but the delivery is perfect. Thank you, Lou. We appreciate it. Like I said, tonight is a very special night. It is the first Monday of the month. And that means we will induct our new members. And we have so many of them that we want to welcome to the family. So Elaine, would you please take it away and make them officially part of our family?
Indeed, I will. So greetings, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, replay viewers, and the new inductees. It's so interesting. The spring of the year is when there are member renewals. Guess what? We've had our share of losses, but we've bounced back with a whole lot of new members, and we are very excited to hold the induction this evening. So, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, I would like to read aloud the names of all the new members. Only some of them are here tonight, but the new members include Marty Sandler, Carl Walsh, Sagar Kulkarni, Teresa Davila, Birgit Starmans, Richard Darling, Sarah Idahen, and Sarah Gao, Hetzi Veach, and Brian David Crawford. Those last ones have both been active in our recent meetings. This is a very important occasion, both for these individuals and our club. As experienced speakers and Toastmasters, these individuals will enrich us as we strive to enrich them in the spirit of sharing and enjoyment. And together, we'll expand our effectiveness as dynamic leaders, presenters, and communicators. I'd like to ask now everyone except the inductees to turn off your camera. This way we can spotlight exactly who the new members are. So inductees, please raise your right hand to begin this Toastmaster pledge. And repeat after me each time that I gesture to you. There you go. I want to make sure my hand shows. Yeah, each time I gesture to you. So inductees like this, I, Elaine, say your name.
I, Carl Walsh.
And the others? Make sure you're unmuted.
I, Sarah Dahan.
I, Sagar.
In the presence of my fellow online presenters, repeat that together. In the presence,
of my
fellow
presenters.
online presenters, I do pledge
I do pledge
And now I'm going to read the Toastmaster promises: to attend meetings regularly and prepare each assignment, to apply myself to the projects outlined in Toastmasters education program, to participate actively in club activities, to evaluate others in positive, constructive manner, to build open, friendly relationships with my fellow members, and to bring other members into the club so they can gain the benefits of Toastmasters. New members of Online Presenter Toastmasters affirm these promises saying, I will. Say.
I will.
Will.
Okay, congratulations and welcome. OP members and honored guests, please unmute and give cheers and applause to our new inductees.
Thank you, Elaine. Well, you know what? From now on, we do not have to unmute, because for those of you that might not have realized it, at the bottom of your panel of where it normally says chat, you'll also see a reaction. And if you click on that, you can applaud for people and they can see you. So I love this new feature. I'm using it all the time. So let's give a big round of applause to all of our new family members and to Elaine. Thank you very much. All right, let's get to it. We have an amazing meeting ready for today, and our Toastmaster of the day is none other than my good friend, Toastmaster and Vice President of Membership, Elaine Nieberding. Elaine?
Good evening, Toastmasters, honored guests, new inductees, and replay viewers. I'm most happy to be with you once again with this evening theme, this day theme of resiliency. There's nothing like the winter of COVID-19 having us retreat inward in our lives. But can we bounce back? Like a slinky, can we spring forward? Can we find that stretchiness and flexibility within ourselves? That is our challenge. The word of the day is flexible. Remember that. Our meeting will have its normal format. First, we'll have our 3 speeches. Then we'll carry on with table topics led by our treasurer and webmaster, David Carr. Following that is the evaluation portion of the meeting and feedback from guests and our functionary role reports. Right now, I would like to call on the functionary role keepers to very briefly, concisely tell what they're going to do. I'd like to call on timer, Lou Brown.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, as timer, I am responsible for helping our speakers maintain the timing of each of their speeches. For guests who may not be familiar with Toastmasters, speeches in our club are 5 to 7 minutes. Table topics are 1 to 2 minutes, and evaluations are 2 to 3, and each of our speakers get a 30-second deviation on each end to complete their speech. Madam Toastmaster.
And I would like to ask right now if there is any one of our speakers this evening that wants an audible cue. Will you please unmute and let us know about that now? Okay, I guess not. Next, I'd like to call on counter Asil Voisanova.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I'll listen carefully for the use of distracting language, such as utterances, crutch words, or double clutches. When called upon, I'll give a 1-minute report highlighting some of the most used or most noteworthy instances of distracting languages, such as and, so, and, you know. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Asil. Next, I'd like to call on Teresa Davila, our newest member, who is going to assist us as grammarian. Tell us what the grammarian does, Teresa.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. And this is a bit of an improv tonight. I have to be very flexible because I have a very flexible internet connection. But what I mainly do as grammarian is I monitor for the use of the word of the day, which is flexible. And I also listen with a keen ear for grammar, both superlative grammar and grammar that can be perhaps improved. And I provide feedback to the members as such. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And now on with Watcher, who is Joy Knudsen. Tell us what you'll be doing, Joy.
I'm going to look at all kinds of visual elements of this meeting, how you all are placed in the frame, how is your lighting, how is your background, and in the end of the meeting I will report about my observations. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Joy. Next, I'll call on Monica, our chat monitor for the evening.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. We've already had a very busy chat going on tonight. I will monitor the chats as we go through the meeting and report back out. And Elaine has already given instructions to all you new guys. So if you haven't found your chat, go to the bottom and just click on the chat button and you'll be able to comment as we go through the meeting. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. I think I have everybody covered except our vote counter, Nick Lacani. Nick, tell us about your vote counting.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Today, you can vote for your favorite speakers, evaluators, and table topics. What you need to do is to send a private message to me, look under V for vote counter, and just at the right time, send your vote in and I will count them and then I will hand them back to the presiding officer. Have a great meeting. Thank you.
With that, we are prepared to steamroll right on ahead to our first speaker of the day. It is Diane M. Rubino. She is a distinguished Toastmaster and her goal is to be an accredited Toastmaster speaker. She teaches and writes about applied ethics, global cross-cultural communications, public health, and public-private partnerships. In the dynamic leadership pathway, her level 1 first evaluation and feedback speech for us is the word or the stick, using Toastmasters to fend off racism. Once again, Diane Rubino with the word or the stick.
Is she Chinese? I was speaking to another
Thank you so much, Diane. That was a very thought-provoking address to us. Moving on to speaker number 2 with new member Sagar Kulkarni is another level 1 first evaluation and feedback speech in the presentation mastery path. He asks, how do you feel with this pandemic situation? Has it impacted your daily routine? Are you following the same old routine, or do you have a new one to cope with this new challenging time? With his speech, my mom's favorite quote, our next speaker will share how to energize your day. Take it away, Sagar Kulkarni.
Indian proverb says, the way you start your day sets the tone for your entire day. That's my mother's favorite morning quote. That used to be my alarm for every morning because I used to hate waking up in the mornings. Madam Toastmaster, friends who love to sleep and liars who say they love to wake up early in the morning. Let me take you back to school days. Do you remember sleeping early in the morning with those sweet, awesome dreams? And you hear, come on, wake up, you're late. It's late, come on, get up. Well, most of the time, or most of my mornings were like that. but with my sweet mom's voice. Sagar, come on. I know I told you several times, but the way you start your day sets your entire day. You win your morning, you win your day. Well, that was my morning routine up until elementary and middle school. As soon as I got to the high school, I used to wait no longer. Every time I used to get ready, I used to rush to the school so I can spend more time with my buddies and my unofficial girlfriend. Well, unofficial because she didn't know she was my girlfriend. Well, after that, walk with me and fast forward to a couple of years, or rather decade, as I got busy myself into career, this rat race, climbing up the ladder, corporate ladder. I got myself into stressful situation, more and more anxiety, stress grabbed my attention, my focus all the time. After a few years, my doctor gave me this prescription saying, you need to do this crucial thing, early morning, meditation and stretch. You have to do meditation and stretches and continue doing that. Well, that doctor's prescription reminded me of my mother's quote, the way you start your day makes tone for the entire day.
Yep.
My mom used to wake us up with this quote. And also, she used to either open the drapes or windows for the sunlight if the sun was out. If the sun was not out, she used to put on these lights, bright lights in the room. And we used to complain about that, but she still used to say, come on, wake up. After that, she used to ask us, tidy up our bed and room. We used to say, why? I have to go back to the bed in the night anyway. Why do I have to tidy up the bed and room? She used to say, there is, when you make your bed, that brings a sense of calm and take you out of that sleepy, tiny mode. Then she used to go and ask us to do stretches, warm-ups, like, jumping jacks and a few other things, or yoga sometimes. After that, after we used to get dressed, just to make sure we used to run from there. As this doctor gave me this prescription, I started research to do what is the best positive, a strong way to start my routine. And well, to my surprise, who is right? My mom was right, and she's always right. The way you start your day sets the tone for your entire day. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this pandemic situation, especially in these situations, these challenging times, my mother's recipe for morning routine works out so well for me. With that, I would like to give you these 4 crucial things that you can start doing it. The first one is pep talk, positive talk. My mom used to say, hey, you know what? Today you're going to have a fabulous time because you have math class, you have English homework, you have English test as well. But remember, we already practiced your English test, questions and answer last night. So don't worry, just pray to the God and say you're going to have a fantastic time. You're going to be awesome. So for you, ladies and gentlemen, prepare a script. Say ABC or XYZ will bring me some fun or joy. The second thing is open drapes or windows if there's sunlight outside, or put on the lights. But be careful, don't bother others, because one time, by mistake, when I woke up at 4 a.m., I turned on the light, and guess what? My wife was really happy, as you can guess. The third thing is stretch. Reach for the star. Go for stretches, because when the blood flows through your body, it wakes up all the muscles. And there's nothing better than your stretches and sunlight to switch your brain from a sleepy to awake mode. Then get dressed. And again, as an adult, I don't have to tell you, but tidy up your room, tidy up your bed. Even though if you're not going to go outside, drive to work in this situation, but still, when you make your bed, that brings a sense of calm and take you out of that sleepy time mode. So ladies and gentlemen, I gave you my mother's favorite quote. That is my favorite quote now. The way you start your day sets the tone for your entire day. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Sagar. You remind me with the make your bed of some call him a thought leader, Jordan Peterson, who in his book, The 12 Lessons for Life Mastery, something like that, he both mentions like make your bed and clean your blankety blank room. Thank you so much, Sagar. That was thought provoking. Next, we go on to speaker number 3, Antoinette Trim. She says, time and time again, one needs to do reflections on life. In our quiet moments, we need to differentiate what needs to get done, how to do things better, and the various goals we hope to achieve. In her completion speech of the Motivational Strategies Pathway, Antoinette shares awarenesses from her journey now with us in Reflections. Give a warm welcome to Antoinette Trim.
Good evening, my fellow Toastmasters. It was a bright, sunny day. The sky was blue. Against a picturesque background were 3 mountain peaks with lush green vegetation punctuated with some yellow pui trees. Oh, what a good day for the beach. As I approached the beach, I felt the soft, silky sand beneath my toes, whilst looking at the clear, sparkling water. By this time, I reached into the beach or into water, and the water was about knee-high. But as I peered at my feet with the ever-shifting glass-like appearance of the water, my feet looked somewhat distorted. But I know I have lovely feet. The scenario which I just described was a story about reflection. Many of us, as adults, we reflect on maybe our spiritual life, our relationships, our various achievements. But in this case, I will be reflecting on my public speaking journey. I remembered my first speech. It was entitled, How Did I Get Here? I did that speech at my Tobago Professional Speakers Club. I remembered I wrote down every single thing about what I'm going to speak about, which was mainly on my academic achievements. And I guess once I was doing my speech, I guess others were in the room saying, hey, like Antoinette has a brain of a bird. How come she has to write down every single thing about herself? And I thought, well, that was a good way. Anyway, my evaluator told me, Antoinette, you depended too much on that paper. And so in my subsequent speeches, I decided that I will just do the main headlines. No sooner I began adopting roles, for example, the accountant, the grammarian, and what have you. But then again, I missed out some of the meetings because of various challenges in my life, as well as sometimes we were unable, at least the Tobago Speakers Club were unable to secure a venue. And in some cases, we had storm watch. So at those times, I was unable to attend meetings. But besides that, by then, Pathways came on stream. And I would log into Pathways almost every day. And so I became somewhat conversant about Pathways, or in Pathways. As a result, in my club, I became the go-to person or the guru on Pathways. As all of you know, Pathways is an online segment. But in my region, many people are reluctant to go online. I work in a bank, and when we tell customers, well, do online banking, their response will be, and I'm talking colloquial now, me not able with that, you know. Me can't take that on. But besides that, but should I say, it was a similar thing in my club. Many of my club members did not like to go on Pathways. In my quest for excellence, I decided to join online presenters. And I must say that I have experienced exponential growth in my public speaking life. I was able to marinate the both sides. And by marinating the both sides, I gained considerable confidence in speaking, or should I say, in being a better communicator, both at work or at home. Additionally, I continue to try as I adopt all the do's and don'ts in public speaking. And talking colloquial now, me have come too far to turn back now. But in proper English language, I will say, I have come too far to turn back now. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Antoinette, we certainly have seen your growth, especially in your storytelling. Thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to call on the timer, Nick Lacani. Did all of our speakers qualify to receive votes?
This is Nick. Actually, this is Lou Elaine.
Excuse me, Lou. Yes.
No problem. Just joking with you there. Yes,
Thank
all of
you.
our speakers qualified. I will post the official speaking times in the chat box.
That means that at this time, you may make your selection for best speaker and send your vote to the vote counter, who is, I'm forgetting, who's the vote counter?
Nick.
That would be Nick.
Nick.
Nick, there we go. I knew Nick was, had a very important role. Thank you. Send your votes to Nick.
Elaine, would you remind us of the speakers' names?
Yes, the first one is Diane. The second was Sagar. The third was Antoinette. Thank you very much. At this time, we move to the second portion of our busy meeting. This will be table topics, where our treasurer, webmaster, and charter president David Carr will call on respondents to give impromptu responses to his most interesting questions. Take it away, David.
Thank you, Elaine. And since we do need to make room for the prospective member speech, should I limit it to maybe just 3, 4?
Well, we'll check the clock. We should be starting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll do 3 and then I'll check with you. Okay.
Okay.
So I have some questions about resilience and flexibility. I want to know, what's one way you have had to be more flexible than usual just recently? And let's hear from, is it Bridget? I want to say Bridget, but it's Bridget?
It's not. I tell people get a beer get.
You're good. Okay, I'll work on it.
No worries, no worries. You got the I before the R, so I'm happy. In these times, I think everyone has to have a lot of flexibility. I've actually been working from home for many years. So it was to the point where my friends and my mom would say, do you have to go into the office today if I had an in-person meeting? And I would say 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. And my company at some point asked me to work from home. And actually a nice little side story, I had this Herman Miller chair. It costs about $2,000. It's great. You can adjust the arms and the legs and everything, every little bit you can adjust. And I knew it was depreciated. I've had the chair since 2002. I wrote a little note to facilities and I said, I know it's depreciated. Can I just take it home? How much do you want for it? They're like, just take the darn thing. And then when I wheeled it out with the help of a friend, there was security right there. And luckily facilities had sent an email saying, it's not normal, but we're gonna let her take the chair. So I flashed the email and said, yeah, it's okay. I'm allowed to take this chair. Even security is like, just take the darn thing. Anyway, we had to be more flexible. I hear that a lot of my colleagues actually are going stir crazy after just 2 or 3 days. And here we are a month into it. I would say my routine has pretty much stayed the same, of getting up, getting my coffee, taking the first couple of calls, then having breakfast. I've kind of managed my day. But we do have to be flexible in terms of not being able to go out and really freely move around or being very far away from other people. I don't like the term social distancing. I like the term physical distancing. But at least after my hospital stay, I have to go to Stanford once a week for blood tests. So that gives me the opportunity to actually take long walks because there's nobody around. They closed the university. So I would have to say we've had to be not just more flexible, but more creative in terms of how we can get some fresh air, how not to get completely stir crazy at home. But it's a challenging time. I hope that we're done with this shelter from home. So that way when we stay in, it'll be because of our choice, not because we have to. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. I would also like to hear from this crowd. How are you developing your personal resilience? What are you doing to build those muscles? And one of our guests is a volunteer today, Roxanne. Roxanne, how are you developing your personal resilience? How are you building up those muscles of being more flexible?
Well, Table Topics Master, first of all, thank you for a topic that allows me to use the word flexible, word of the day. So flexibility is one thing that this whole situation has demanded of, I imagine, all of us. And my resilience really comes because the nature of my work engages people face to face. And I do traveling and people come into my office. Once this shutdown happened and social distancing, not social distancing, but physical distancing, that's where my resilience had to come into play. Not only do I meet with clients face to face, but I also conduct live seminars in restaurants. And although I've had to move my seminars to an online format, my participants are used to meals. So I've had to find ways to send them things, yes, by mail, by delivery of meals to their homes. I've sent Starbucks cards to have them buy their own cup of coffee while we engage online. But I'd say that's where it's come in my resilience has been in having to reinvent the way I do business. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. Also on my list, one of our words today was flexible in addition to resilience. Is it possible to be too flexible? Carl Walsh. Is it possible to be too flexible, Carl Walsh?
Unfortunately, I would say yes. Particularly in business and in cases of leadership, being too flexible can allow things to get out of hand. If you have a goal, if you have a destination that you're working towards, keeping focused and keeping on the path are necessary. Flexibility, while sometimes necessary, things change, things pop up, and you have to be flexible. But when you indulge it too much, when you go too far, then you can get off the path, you can lose sight of where you're heading, and wreck all the efforts of your efforts and the efforts of others, and you end up finding the wrong off-ramp from the path that you were taking. So flexibility, good in most cases, but a lot of times it can get you into trouble. It really can. So I would be careful about the situation and the value of your deviations. And that should keep you on the straight and narrow. Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you, Carl. All right, do I have time for one more, Elaine? Elaine, are you nodding? Yes, okay. Who is someone who has impressed you lately with their resilience, their ability to be resilient? Rick Derlin.
Good evening, everyone. I have a number of people who I feel have demonstrated resilience in this very difficult time that we are facing. I'll start with my wife. She has to put up with me, and that's showing a great deal of resilience all by itself. But taking it to the serious side, I will tell you that there are a number of folks that I know who are dealing with the COVID virus as we speak. And their families, and they are themselves, dealing with a situation that is life-threatening. Believe me, it is. One of my friends has described this as the worst thing that he has ever gotten in his life, and he is an extremely healthy individual. They are continuing to develop and demonstrate an incredible resiliency just by keeping a sense of humor throughout this entire process. And I think that's where resiliency really demonstrates itself. It's when you bring humor into situations that are difficult, life-threatening, or just outrageously bad. Bring the humor, bring a smile. My best friend died of cancer. And to the day he passed away, he had a smile on his face. Be resilient, smile. We will get through this. Back to you.
Thank you very much. May I ask for a timer for a timer's report?
Yes, Mr. Topics Master, all of our speakers qualified. I will post the names and times in the chat box.
Okay, yeah, the names again were Birgit. Am I getting closer? I think I'm getting closer a little bit. Roxanne, Carl, and Rick. Thank you. Ms. Toastmaster.
At this point in time, it's time for another speech, a brief speech. a prospective member speech. This is someone without Toastmaster experience who's making an appeal to us to be approved to join us as a member. And I'd like to welcome and introduce to you Justin Sosaby. Take it away, Justin.
Hey everyone, I hope everyone's coping well during this pandemic. I know it's pretty tough for everybody. Speaking about resilience, I think that's a really important topic to discuss and to think about as we're going through this. So just to give you a little bit of background about myself, my public speaking journey, I would say, started when I was probably back in 2015 when I was an undergraduate at Georgia Gwinnett College. I was the president of the MIS Club, where we had 2 meetings per month for a whole year. It was in my senior year. And it was just about, the integration between business and technology. And we grew that club from there was about 5 people before I joined to about 20 people. So if you're passionate about business and technology, one of the things that was part of my job was to grow the club. So after that, once I graduated, I started my career as a process analyst intern at Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA, and where I worked on reporting analytics and also working on business cases. So building presentations, as well as presenting those business cases to my managers and also my team as well, which they would then present to their bosses, which was the president, CEO, and the board. And luckily, even as an intern, I was able to win 2 of those business cases, which led me to my first job, my first full-time job as an analyst for Mercedes-Benz USA, which I guess I should say my role was primarily positioned to make business development presentations for the production, distribution, and sale of Mercedes-Benz vans. It's a relatively new department, even still. I mean, it's been around since 2010, but considering most people think of Mercedes-Benz as the sports cars and everything else, so there's a lot of growth as far as that goes. So I did that for about a year. I resigned to focus on my graduate program at Purdue University, which was all virtual, and so I just finished that up this past August. And so most of my projects, we had to do presentations on what we did as far as our projects, as far as our research. And that gave me a good experience as to, just online virtual presentations. And so after that I was done, I started as a process analyst at State Farm Corporate. And so I've been doing that for about a year, and it's been a really good role since most of my team is actually across the United States. So we have corporate, which is in Illinois, and then we have corporate offices in Dallas and Phoenix, and in the Atlanta office as well, such as where I'm from. And it's been very good. I mean, at my previous position, most of my team was in the office, but now being that I'm in this role, it's, you have to be relative to that online presenting. And so I figured when I saw this group, I figured it would be a good opportunity for me to share the things that I've learned through my role for the past year, but also to learn as well from others. So we all work in different industries, and we all, have our own experiences, some more than others. And I feel that it would be great for me to share what I've learned. Communication channels is one of the biggest things that I've learned. Putting yourself in perspective of others before you send out communications is another thing that I found vitally important since I would say from this position, but also from my past as well. So there's a lot of room for growth for me to learn, but also to share with others. So I'm happy to, be a prospective member, and this is my second meeting. So if y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask, and I think I am good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Justin. Who knew that Mercedes-Benz had vans, correct?
Yep. Yep. No one really thinks about it, but
we all learned something new. Thank you for sharing your background with us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
At this point, it's time to move on with the third portion of our meeting, that starts with General Evaluator and Club President Lois Margolin. Take it away, Mistress General Evaluator. Something like that.
Thank you, Elaine. My fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. I am honored to be the General Evaluator for today. The purpose of the General Evaluator role is the most role of the entire meeting. Don't let anybody tell you anything different, because this is the person that actually gets to introduce, not just introduce, but really introduce our evaluators for our amazing speakers. And at the end, I will be calling for our 1-minute reports for our ancillary roles. So let's get started. To evaluate Toastmaster Diane, let's give it up for Toastmaster Tiger.
Thank you, Mistress General Evaluator. It is my privilege, nay, it is my honor to evaluate Diane. Fellow members and guests, Diane did a lot of good things in the speech, and she was very thought-provoking on a very delicate subject. She took a risk. She was organized. She spoke in a casual conversation. I felt as though she was speaking to me, just sitting in a living room having a conversation. She had good pauses. She made good eye contact. Let me read a couple of quotes that I thought made the speech more powerful. A modern day manifestation. People are a little too comfortable when she was speaking about prejudice, talking about, and she was speaking of prejudice. This is perfectly suitable to deal with in Toastmasters. There is value in actions. I love that quote. She gave a very appropriate, a very appropriate quote that had meaning and was perfect for the situation. There were a couple of things that you could have done better. So let me just give you a couple recommendations that would have made this speech even more powerful. When you did your quote, you looked sideways. If you could have the quote out in front of you so that you could be reading it, it's perfectly appropriate to read a quote, but read it so that we're getting your eye contact. When you make eye contact, you are a very powerful speaker. We can see your facial expressions. The beginning was a little bit slow and a little bit awkward. I would have liked if you'd set the scene just a little bit better so that we knew you were talking about plagiarizing and there was a Chinese student, but it was a little bit confusing. Your awkward pause, you had an awkward pause, and I don't know if you were rearranging your notes or whatever. We all have awkward pauses. I just had one a few seconds ago, but then you apologized. You got to make it look like the awkward pause was part of the speech. You got to, you've been doing this a long time. You got to fool us like Lou would and just say, kind of awkward pause and then just move right ahead and just go for it. This was a very intense subject. And I'm going to read a quote. I'm going to plagiarize if the person that wrote this, I don't think will mind. You are to be commended for addressing a sensitive and delicate subject in an effort to bring awareness to your audience. So Diane, thank you very much for taking a risk.
Thank you, Tiger. I appreciate it. Mr. Timer, could you please tell the audience what the timing requirements are for evaluations?
Certainly, Madam General Evaluator. Evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes with a 30-second deviation on each side.
Thank you, sir. Our second evaluator will be Jim Barber to evaluate Toastmaster Sager. Jim?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. My fellow Toastmasters are most welcome guests, and especially, of course, Toastmaster Sagar Kulkarni. Sagar, this was your first presentation here at Online Presenters, and this was our opportunity to get to know you and for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and get familiar with your speaking style. And you did a very good job. Congratulations. I want to review two aspects of your speech. the vocal side and the visual side. In terms of the vocal side, top notch. I don't have any suggestions there. Specifically, you have a very comfortable speaking style. That is great. You are enjoyable to listen to. I like that. You have good vocal variety. Your use of pauses is top notch. You opened with a quote. I hate it when people waste our time with useless trivialities at the beginning. You opened with your solid content. That was great. I liked that. You had an effective, solid closing. That was good also. You have a sense of humor. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that. You talked about your unofficial girlfriend. I liked that so much. You didn't throw a joke at us, but you have a sense of humor. You demonstrated that. I'm looking forward to hearing more. Let's talk about the visual side of it. First of all, kudos for your eye contact with the camera. Many times when people show up here, they establish great eye contact with the audience, but that's not the same thing. You want to have eye contact with the camera, and you did that. I had you on speaker view, and you were speaking to me, to the camera, the entire time. That was great. Congratulations. Your background, you're not using a green screen. You're speaking there. I don't think it is. You're speaking, it looks like from an office, and it works very well. I like the layout. I have one suggestion. You have a desk light on behind you, and I think the camera is picking that up a little bit. If you could turn that desk light off, it'll darken the background a little bit, and it'll be a little bit more contrast with you yourself. Minor thing. Your gestures are very good, but they're a little bit on the low side. They tend to be down here, which is at the very bottom of your video screen. Move your gestures up just a little bit, about 3 or 4 inches, so that they're more in line with your face. It'll be a little more effective. Your body language, same sort of thing. You talked about 4 crucial things, but you talked about it down here, 4 crucial things. Bring it up beside your face, 4 crucial things like that. You stretched, I like that, the body language, you were stretching, but you moved it a little bit fast, and if you don't have a strong bandwidth, that can tend to fade. So slow down your gestures a little bit, and don't move off camera. Stretch like that. It's really not the way to stretch, but it works a little bit better on camera. This is basically it, though. It was a top-notch presentation. I'd say more, but I don't think the timer is going to be very flexible, so I'll end it now. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jim. And to evaluate our third speaker, Antoinette, please welcome Dr. Emily.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I wanted to address fellow online presenters, our guests, and especially Antoinette. Antoinette, I really enjoyed your final speech here in your path, which is motivational strategies. It is a joy to hear someone at the end of their path, you know, yay, kudos, you've made it here, you're reflecting on that path. I would like to tell a little bit about what I saw, a little bit about what I heard, and a little bit about what I felt. And I want to start with how I felt was charmed. I was really charmed by your stories that included regional flavor and hearing about your growth as you moved through this path. You did also hit the 2 requirements for this speech, which are to describe your growth as you go through the path and to give some stories from the path. Regarding what I saw, I do think that you're not centered in the screen, and I know that that is your personal style. I have my part on the side. You prefer to stay on the side of your screen. That's fine, but I think you need to be a little higher in the screen so that we can see your face, all of your face. Other than that, that part was good. What I heard was a very well practiced speech with those 3 stories with the regional character. In your first speech, I was delighted to hear about your walk on the beach and what it is like where you live in Tobago. It took me a minute to figure out what you were doing, and perhaps in the future to take this to the next step, you would tell us that you are setting the scene. That's all I needed to know. The details were lovely. I could hear the waves splashing as you spoke. You also had 2 stories using colloquial language from Tobago, and they were truly charming. The last one being, "I've come too far to turn back now," but in colloquial, which I can't imitate. But it was truly charming to hear those. I also I already mentioned, I felt charmed. There was one word I couldn't quite hear. I thought it was either marinating, where you were speaking about putting together the tradition from your brick and mortar club and your online presenter club. It was either marinating or marrying. And I decided I didn't care which it was. Either word was tremendous. I actually think you said marinating, and I love to cook as well. And for the very last comment, I'd like to suggest that you put in a summary at the end so that we know that this was all about how you improved during the course of all these speeches you've given. It's probably 15 or 16 speeches. Other than that, I really enjoyed your speech, and I look forward to your next speech, Antoinette. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Emily. How did our speakers do? All within time?
All speakers qualified, Madam GE. And Tiger, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I don't have awkward pauses.
I was waiting for that. I looked for you when he said that, I have to say. All right, Lou, if you will please make sure that you time everybody for 1 minute. We're going to keep them on their toes. Asil, can you please give us a 1 minute on-counter report?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I really enjoyed the meeting because I didn't hear many uses of destructive languages. Just I noted that when speakers were collecting their thoughts, they used and a lot. Today I'm a fan of our guest, Rick. His speech was fabulous without any uses of distracting languages. And I also sent privately my feedback to the speakers. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator. Thank you.
Thank you, Asil. I see Tiger, Jim, and Emily times are posted in the chat box. Please find Nick. He starts with V for vote counter, and place your vote, either Tiger, Jim, or Emily. Marian, Teresa, how did we do?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. We didn't do so well at first because I had a horrible internet connection. So as far as counting word of the day, I'm going to go ahead and summarize that with my sincerest apologies to any words of the day that I missed while I was rebooting multiple times. Most of the word of the day use that I caught was during the table topics. And Birgit, I believe, used the word of the day about 4 times. Roxanne, about 3 times. And Carl also came in high with approximately 4 times. So good work on the word of the day, folks. As far as the use of the English language, I didn't pick up any blatant misuse of words. I found some delightful use of the English language many times, specifically starting with Diane. In the face of COVID just really kind of hit me in the face. We've heard a lot of phrases about COVID, and I just think of it as like hitting me in the face. With Sagar, I thought the phrase.
We're going to stop you there. Thank you very much. We have 1 minute on our report. Thank you. We appreciate it. Our chat monitor, Monica, how did we do?
We kept the chat busy, and we were really good during our speaker portion, which is great. We're not overwhelming the speakers with the unnecessary chatting. We learned about some guests, and Lou educated us on how to say Birgit. I don't know if that's right or not, but I'm going with Lou's enunciation for it. And then we did all our voting in our chat. So if you ever want to save the chat, you can go over to the right-hand side, the 3 little dots, click on that, you'll have more. And the first one is save chat. You can save all the history onto your computer and go back and access details and also anything else. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Monica. And our watcher, Joy, how did we do?
today there were many people using still pictures, and that's fine. I mean, especially if you are eating or drinking or multitasking or scratching your nose or head, it's very polite to use a still picture or just go black. Then there were several people using green screens today, and those are delightful. I really love them. But if there's too much going on, movement on your green screen, you are using some video background, it can be disturbing. Especially I got caught by John Callahan's experiments with all kinds of backgrounds where there was movement. So it can be distracting if you are looking at in gallery view as I was doing tonight. Then there were a couple of people who had shadows. I mean, Antoinette had a green screen, and then Tricia had was, I think, in your office, and something weird was going on on your screen. Tricia had some kinds of magical vibrations, and maybe these two.
Right, that's 1 minute. If you could, if you have something else, you can put it in a private chat.
Yes. Okay.
As we do.
And then.
Joy, we're done. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, so that finishes up our 1 minute of ancillary reports. As the general evaluator, we have a couple of things that I wanted to go over. First of all, we started on time, which actually we started a minute early. And I have to say, Lou, I really do love the way they open this up. I give kudos to Elaine for smiling throughout the entire time, doing her induction and just making this such a warm environment. Thank you to Tricia for being ready to give her speech if Sagar didn't show up. In the role inductions, I'd like to challenge some of our members to be exciting when you're giving your role introduction. This might be your only chance to speak, so do something different. If you're watching something like that, you can put on some sunglasses and talk about watching people, but let's talk about doing something different, interesting to introduce your role so that you have your time in the sun. Congratulations to our new members, Sagar, Bert, Rick, and Teresa for all having speaking roles today. Justin, I thought you did a great job. You were calm, cool, and collective, and I really appreciated your speech. As a general evaluator, I wanted to give a couple of comments to our evaluators. Tiger, most of your evaluation was right here, and we couldn't see your hands. And also, I would challenge you not to use your notes. When you give an evaluation, just say it from the heart and go with it. And Jim, I'm giving you the same comment because it looked like you constantly kept looking back down. And there were times that, Jim, your head was cut off. So you might have gotten a little bit too close. Emily, we can't see your hands, but I love the word charmed and I love the word lovely, but beware of how many times you use it because there's such unique words that if you're going to use them multiple times, they start sounding like a double clutch or a start over. I love the words because I wouldn't have used those, so I thought they were good. Asil, for a odd counter report, because that is so difficult, you want to consider handing those out on a private message. And the one thing that I will say about this group is that it is professional. You all unmuted yourself on time. You got right into the role. 99% of you came out with the thank you, madam, or mistress, or Mr., or whatever it was for the day. And you ended it handing it back to them. So kudos to that. Remember, when we do our ancillary reports, it is only a 1 minute report. So you have to pick which items are the most important as part of a learning curve. And we're sorry to cut you off, but we've had people that can go on for minutes on reports. So we try and keep it short and sweet and to the point. Overall, I have to tell you, I have seen a big change in this club. There has been a pull up by the bootstraps. Our evaluations were all very strong, all very elegant. They went right to the heart of it. They were very nice and fluffy in the beginning. I don't think any of them ended with fluff at the end, which I thought was interesting because that's my style. God, I don't have fluff. I just come in and shoot from the hip and they go, oh man, I should have said I really loved your speech. So it's okay. That's how we operate. This is an advanced club. If you give a straight shooting evaluation, that's what's expected. But overall, I really like how everybody stepped up. And I do want you to think, when you have the roles next week, how are you going to get on here and say, I have the most important role of the night, and here is why, and tell us why you have it. Thank you. I am going to turn this back to our Toastmaster of the day for our vote winners, our elections here. Madam Toastmaster.
It's now time to call on Nick Lacani, our vote counter, to announce the winners of the meeting.
Here's why my role is the most important today, because I can go and change the order when I want to. Evaluator, best one, Jim Barber, well done. Table topics, we have a tie, Carl and Rick. And making his debut today, best speaker, Sagar Kulkarni. Well done, everybody.
What an exciting evening this is. I think we've had about 50 or more here gathered in our virtual meeting room. Quite a great exchange. I would actually like to get some feedback from some of our guest members. I'd like to enlist the help.
Pass it back to me.
Yes, I was going to call on you to do that.
Thank you. We'll
Take it
definitely
away, Lois.
Thank you. My last evaluation is Nick, who did have the most important role of the day, but this might be a cultural difference, Nick. In the United States, the vote counter does not vote, and if there is a tie, they break the tie. And if they say it was a tie, but the winner is, then we know what the vote counter voted for. But do you not do that in England?
Well, actually, we are a global club, so we're not in one actual country, I believe.
Oh, but you don't do that in any of your clubs? Interesting. Okay, so maybe that's a US thing, because that's what. So anyway, I am getting ready to wrap up the meeting. As I said before, April 20th is going to be a speech-a-thon. We are booked. We are looking for our nominating committee because it's getting ready for election time. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we are going to be scheduling a speech-a-thon. I'm not sure if Roger or I are going to be running that, but I did check Nick and he's already said, yes, he's in. And for our guests and our members, this is for members. If you cannot get the agenda, and John Quick, President of Education, and myself reserve some spots for ourselves, which are really for members that can't get on the agenda. But on a speech-a-thon, it's usually on a Saturday, and it goes anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half. And we go ahead, and all it is it's a speech and an evaluation, a speech and an evaluation. And usually we can get, how many, Nick? Eight people on there?
Yeah, absolutely. And we mix it up a little bit. We make it funky, but fun.
All right. And let's see, I do have a hand raised. Bill Kirby, would you please unmute yourself and tell us what you thought about the meeting and why you raised your hand?
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, thank you very much, online presenters, for having me as a guest tonight. I have visited quite a few online meetings in the last 2 weeks, given the social distancing, as it was put earlier this evening. I enjoyed myself tremendously, and I've learned a lot through your meetings. So I want to thank you for having me here tonight. I will certainly be back to check out your meetings, not as an educational venture, but perhaps as a prospective member in the future. So thank you very much once again for having me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Looking forward to seeing you too. Wonderful. Guest L, what'd you think about the meeting?
I had a great time. Give me 1 second. I had a fantastic time. I don't know what I expected, but I had a great time. As I said, I was kind of coming in blind. I love the page though. But when it comes to everyone here, everyone was very friendly and welcoming. Everything was easy to understand when it came to voting and what the roles were. And I look forward to visiting next week or whenever next possible. Thank you.
Well, we're glad to have you. I'm going to go with one more guest, Marianne Grady.
I thought, again, I've been to a few virtual meetings more recently, but since you do this all the time, you seem very well organized. You seem like you really have your finger on the pulse with this, where I noticed there's a lot of, I guess, learning curve for everybody else. So it was really a pleasure to just have it run so smoothly.
Well, thank you. Well, it is 9 o'clock. Actually, we are a minute past. I'm going to officially adjourn the meeting. However, a number of us do stay on afterwards. And I know Elaine stays on, and we'd like to hear more from our guests. But for our members, we try and value your time. Some of you have been on since 7:15. So we bid you adieu if you would like to sign off, and we'll give you a minute or two, and then we'll just kind of chat for another, well, I chat for 15 to 30 minutes, but I know some of them stay on for hours. So it's up to you. You are most welcome to stay. All right.